We've heard a lot about Shamari Earls. Can you just talk about what you've seen from him and then the other corners and what's working there?
Yeah, I think Shamari has done a good job of just getting here in January, trying to put it all together. You know, he didn't play his senior season, got hurt in preseason as a senior, so it's been a lot on him. You know, I think he's been pushing through. He's a tough kid. His parents, former in the military, both of them. So I think that kid is just, you know, he's a pleaser, asking all the right questions, trying to get better each and every day. So I think it's a lot on Shamari. Just, you know, he has a lot of confidence in himself, but he also doesn't want to let anybody down, doesn't want to let us down, doesn't want the head coach down, doesn't want to let Michigan down. He just puts a lot of pressure on himself, which is, you know, it's a good trait if he can balance it all. But I'm excited about Shamari.
Can you talk about his physical skills at that size?
Yeah, Shamari's a tall, long guy. You know, I think Michigan every year for the last couple of years has at least had one or two guys that way. So I think the combination of being, you know, over 6'1", around 200 pounds, and also ran in the tens in high school allows him to be a unique player. He's kind of like Bambi sometimes because he's just so long and he has to figure it out, but I'm really excited about him.
Alejandro? Wink has mentioned the ideal of the defense being positionless, particularly in the back seven. Who among your defensive backs do you feel like embodies that the most?
Yeah, I think this spring's been pretty good because every day at the star position that we played last year, we've been using like one day to be the corners play it. The next day we let the safeties play it. So TJ Metcalf, Zeke Berry, Shug, Mason Curtis, Jacob Odin, Lowe, like we had a lot of guys playing nickel each day. We just try to rotate it through so we can add some depth at that position. You know, I think each week that position can kind of change, right? Zeke played it earlier in the year. Then at the last 4 or 5 games, Makari played it. Probably had some of the best games he had at Michigan doing that. So I just think we just got to try to create depth. The best way you do that is find roles for the current guys on your team. Let guys feel like they're starters and stuff like that. And I think that's really important.
Back right here.
You just mentioned TJ, but can you talk about what you've seen from the Metcalf brothers?
Yeah, I think those kids do a good job. His parents, it starts with his mom and dad. You know, they're elite people. You know, Jesse and those guys recruited him a little bit here. I always clown Jesse. They didn't take him, so we took him. So, but, you know, those kids are focused, man. They're here all the time. In between class, they'll eat breakfast. They want to watch tape on their own. You might walk by the meeting room, and they're just in there watching tape, very critical of themselves. I just think they have a maturity about them. I think that comes from mom and dad. You know, they love football. The pedigree of that family with DK and that family, they're just really appreciative of being at Michigan. The way that we do things, you know, the detail, you know, the focus on winning championships. I just think they want to do their part to help us get there. But those kids they have a bright future, and I'm really excited to see both of those guys. You know, if you watch practice or, you know, every practice one or both of them are going to make a play that you're like, man, that's just the Metcalf boys again. So I think that's pretty cool to see.
On the left, Isaiah.
Didn't have a lot of stats at his previous stop, but you obviously coached Caleb Anderson at Louisiana. What does he bring to the table? What made you want to target him in the portal?
Well, I think here it's a little bit different when you go get guys in the portal. I think the thing that you got to be careful of is you got to understand this is Michigan with the academic piece, the standards of being able to focus on and off the field. You got to be more than just a football player here. I think that's what's kind of attractive. Knowing Caleb as a grad transfer, understanding that he's going to do well academically, he's going to be tall and long, he can run. He was a high school quarterback, could have went to Utah or Virginia out of high school when we signed him at UL. So I brought Caleb to UL. So kind of know what he can do. He's not the finished product. He still needs to get better. I think he kind of saw what what happened with Amir, right? He came here. It took him a little bit, but then at the end of the year for Amir, he played. Without Amir, we wouldn't finish the season the way we did. I mean, he played lights out the last 3 games, and I hope that gives him a great shot moving forward. So I just think that's what people know. You know, every year here, from Josh Wallace to now Amir, it'd be cool if it was Caleb the next guy, right? You come here for the right reasons. You got your degree. You come here for the grad program, and you get a chance to compete against the best week in and week out. So that's kind of what I see Caleb as, a guy that's 6'2", 200 pounds, that can run, athletic. That's kind of what I think Caleb can help us with.
Left there, John.
Coach, Michigan's played a version of this defense for a while now.
Yep.
To you and your experience so far, what makes it so effective?
Well, I think the thing that's different is is the guy that calls it, and then I think the coach is in the system. So I think the system in place, it's all the same for the kids. So I think that's the unique thing, right? If you've been here 4 or 5 years, Rod Moore, I was watching his freshman cut-ups the other day, and he was a baller. Glad to get him back. But it's different each year. So I think that's just Wink's personality versus Mike's versus Jesse. But I think the basis of it is that, right? So Wink's going to look at after spring football and fall camp, what can we do well? And he's just going to use those things. So we're more a man team, we're going to play more man. If we can't play man, it'll be more zone. If we need to blitz more, we can. I mean, we had the best two D tackles in the country last year. No offense, you could call a lot of different things with those two guys in there. So I just think that's what makes the defense a little bit more unique is it's a lot of stuff that you can do. You just got to pull each week the right stuff to do, if that makes sense with that. And then you got to look at our players. I always say this, and I know somebody, I might get ridiculed a little bit about it, but we had a lot of guys last year, and they were part of the national championship team. They were part. But I don't know if the roles on that national championship team were like starter roles. So you're kind of there, but you weren't in the fire. And I think last year we gave a lot of guys a chance to get in the fire so they know how much they need to get to where they need to go, right? So like Will Johnson, he was part of the national championship team. He was the MVP. He played every week. But there's some guys that just maybe on special teams, but they still remember we won a national championship. But did they put enough work in each week as a position player, not just on special teams? So I think that's where the defense is kind of like buying into understanding like it's however Ernie is a leader, those guys have to take the team to the next step, right? Coaches to do so much, but it's got to be player-led. And I think this offseason, that's kind of what you'll see, the message when y'all talk to our players. I know y'all do a great job with them, but it's a lot of ownership in that locker room right now. And I think that's the best way. That's how you win.
Do you think Wink being here for another year is going to add to the comfort factor?
Yeah, I think anything that you do, it's kind of, shout out to my wife. Once you get married, right, in 10 years, 11 years, and next year it keeps getting better. And I really believe that. And you get kids and all that, they just get better. They don't listen, but they just get better. But I think you just got the whole staff here again. I think the kids you understand what's going on. And you're not asking so many questions. How do you want this? How do you want that? We already know kind of what Wink wants. And if not, we can give him suggestions and he can agree. I think anytime when you have a staff where, 9 of the 10 full-time coaches are back, I think that's huge. I just think it makes our kids feel familiar. The kids know when I'm going to be upset that day because the practice the day before was bad. I don't have to say anything. I walk in the room, they know. It's different when you have a lot of turnover on staffs. I think that's not fair to kids, but that's the business that we live in now. So I think that's what kind of helped our guys too. I think our kids, from the young guys to the freshmen that we recruited, the guys that we developed that maybe didn't get to play, I think everybody feels like, everybody's all in and everybody's on the same page. I think that's a great question. I think that's going to help everybody.
Right here, Ryan.
How much is Mason Curtis splitting his reps between nickel and safety, and where do you think he's best suited?
I think Mason could do a lot. I always talk about Makari Page used to always talk about he thinks Mason could be better than him just because he's a young player. I really like that Mason has played outside linebacker in high school, and then he played receiver, and he played receiver here for like a couple of days, and then I got him, and I was excited about that. I think Mason can do a lot. I think Mason's still growing with his body. He's so big and tall and all that, and he's a unique kid. He's big in his faith. Whenever y'all talk to him, you should talk to him about it. It's pretty cool if you talk to Mason Curtis. His mom's done a great job. That family's been through its adversity, and I think that's it. That's what fuels that kid. But this spring, to me, I've been repping a lot of guys with a lot of groups. I try to make sure everybody gets enough reps with the ones, enough guys get reps with the twos, and just try to give everybody opportunity. I think that's what you want in the spring, to see what people are doing with their opportunities. So now you can kind of build what you want to do around there. But Mason's been playing, I would say every day he's probably playing 60 to 40 high safety versus nickel, because we have some other guys do that too. So I think Mason will do both next year. I think in the first game, you'll probably see him playing nickel and safety, both safeties left and right in the back end and playing nickel.
And how unique is it for someone his size to be playing as a defensive back?
Yeah, I think it is. It is unique. I think some of the limitations that you might have because you're so tall, they're his advantage as well, right? Like he might not be 4'4", but he's 6'4" plus, and he has long arms. So I think it's like a weighted scale for him a little bit, So he's a little longer, so he might not be as twitchy as maybe a smaller guy, but he can cover a lot of ground. So I'm really excited about Mason. I know maybe at the end of the year, last year, I kind of told you I thought he was going to be a guy that's going to be a really good player, and I think he just started. His career here is just starting. Mason will be special.
Stay up here on the right, Aaron.
How close is Rod Moore and how involved is he right now?
Yeah, Rod's doing a good job. You know, Rod's working, does a lot of stuff downstairs in the training room, athletic room. Does a lot of stuff with our guys, meeting extra. Rod's really close. You know, we just try to be fair to Rod and his family and all that stuff. Just giving the guy time, and you don't want to rush a guy back. That is a lot. I mean, he poured a lot in this program. There's a lot of seasons without Rod Moore. I don't know if everybody here is excited as much without him. I mean, that dude made some big-time plays. So we're just trying to be, he knows how important he is to our program, but we also don't want to be the one that's forcing him to do something before he's ready to go. So, but we encourage him. I mean, he's here all the time. I mean, he lives in this building. He's about to graduate, which is a credit to him. So he's all in. He's going to have a big-time year.
And what type of growth have you seen from Jaire Hill from the end of last year to now?
Yeah, I know y'all cover Jaire, so Jaire's still as silly as y'all see him. But Jaire is growing up because I think he knows the time is now, right? Every kid develops at their own pace. I think sometimes you want your kids to do something better. Like you want your kid to go walk a little faster, but they're going to walk when they need to walk. So I think that's kind of what Jaire is. He's just growing up, trying to be a leader, trying to be focused. He's playing some nickel as well. I just think it's his time to take it to the next step. You know, I think last year he played pretty solid besides some of the, double moves. I mean, when you're on the other side of Will, you're going to get challenged a little bit, and I think he's moving in the right direction. I've been really pleased with him. His mom don't play around, so she's all over him, and I think that's a credit to her and his dad too. So his brothers and sisters, you'll see him up here during spring game. They love Michigan more than anybody else. So I'm really excited about Suge and his growth.
Right here, Tony.
Yeah, Ron Bellamy was just talking about the emphasis on making sure that they increase their depth on that side of the ball. I wonder how that's looked for you guys. Are you guys noticing? Are you guys being tested more?
Yeah, I think the receivers, I think they've always done a good job. I think the offense, Coach Lindsey and everybody on that side of the ball have done a great job of challenging us more. They still do what y'all used to with the smash mouth football, but throwing the ball around the yard. These guys can make throws from the opposite hash on an 18-yard comeback and the ball's on the money. You got to defend the whole grass with this offense, which I think is always good. They can go tempo and they can slow it down. They can get 11, 12 personnel and still do all the different sets. So I think that's what's unique now. I mean, they're doing a really good job. We got a lot of young guys stepping up. Every day somebody does something special. I know people talk about Jamar, then you talk about Marsh, then you talk about McCulley, then Fred Moore is doing a great job. I'm biased to all the receivers we go against them. Those are probably my favorite group on the team, besides my guys, of course. But those guys have done a great job competing, being physical in the run game. Coach Bellamy and Coach Soup and Tuttle has done a great job with the receivers. So there's a lot of really good battles. We're not going to get good if we don't get better on both sides of the ball, right? So, when they won a natty here, they had the most depth probably. And, I mean, the DBs, their backups were like pros. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, if we can get that back and get that being very competitive, that's how you win. We got to have the most competitive roster in college football. So that's kind of our goal.
Does that position, coming off the bus, as they say, does it just look different?
Yeah, I think those guys grow up a little bit. I think even Coach Kasula with the tight ends, I think those guys have grown up. Klein and Hogan and Zach and Hoffman. Those guys, they catching balls one-on-ones. It's not like you just suffocating them every day at practice. It's a constant battle going back and forth. Of course, on defense, if you talk to the defensive coaches, we'll say that we're getting after them. If you talk to them, that's part of it. So coaches are competing and players are too. So I think there's some good back and forth, and I think that's how you get a really good team.
Back right, Charles.
Hey, you briefly mentioned Jacob Odin earlier. How's his development going?
Yeah, Jacob Odin was kind of like a jack of all trades early in the spring. Not in the spring, but last year. So it probably wasn't fair to him. What I mean by that is he just would play corner some days and play high safety and play nickel. This spring, we try to just let him focus on playing nickel and safety. He's done a good job. Last year he redshirted, but he was able to play in those 4 games on special teams. I think his role can increase if he just stays the course and stays focused. But he's been working hard. He knows the defense back and forward, and he's been really working hard. You would love for Jacob Odin, these guys that are local guys around here, to continue to do well. And I think that's kind of what we have done here.
On the left, Chris.
What kind of spring has Brandon Hillman had, and what's his best position?
Yeah, I think B. Hillman is a kid that's very unique. You know, high school quarterback, came in here and just was trying to just learn everything. I think that's what's kind of hard a little bit. You know, these kids develop. It takes them a little bit. You know, it's different if you are playing DB your whole career, but you go to a place like Michigan, the best of the best, and then you got to go play safety and you got to backpedal instead of just playing quarterback. Him and Bryce be throwing catch all the time outside. I mean, the kid is a super athletic. Hillman will be a guy that's going to play one of the high safeties for us, and then we'll mix in some nickel for him as well. Right now he's focused a little bit more on safety just because his roles has increased there. But you saw the best of him last year with just what he can do, the physicality, throwing his body around, and all that. I mean, he plays with no, I mean, he just plays crazy sometimes, right? So he just runs through people. He's going to be physical, trying to play more control and not just be a one-trick pony. I think that's what you got to understand. You only get one body until the good Lord comes back. So the body that you got to take care of it. And I think that's where he got to understand when it's a big-time knockout shot and when he just needs to get the guy on the ground. But if you watch the tape, I mean, he's trying to knock somebody out every play. So I was just trying to say that as cleanly and correctly as I could, but that's what he does.
In front right here, Dennis.
Mark, you see the back and forth between Coach Prime and Asante Samuel talking about the technique at corner. Seemed like they had a difference of opinion. What do you say to your guys with technique and what's the way to play that way?
Well, I think that's a great question. You know, I got a lot of respect for those guys. You know, I try to study a lot of defensive back play because we have different kids from different heights and weights and stuff. My thing is just getting your foot underneath your butt. I always tell them get your plant foot underneath your butt, and then I want you to point your toe in the direction. So to me, I just want to get you cycling through. So I think you can do both. I think some kids do on wet surfaces sometimes, but to me it's just like non-wasted movement and how fast you can transition. But we try to give our guys like a toolbox, and if their tools ain't working, they're going to use ours, but we try to give them a couple of things that they can do to try to be successful because, you know, one kid might be 6 foot, 185 pounds. Mason's 6'4", over 200 pounds. It's not going to look the same. Rod Moore, you know, I know Rod says he's 6 foot. Y'all met Rod, but it's everybody looks a little different. So I want the guys to have their own ownership as well. But I also want to make sure that what we're doing is technical sound and fundamentally sound and all that. So I think both guys have a point. You know, I got too much stuff at home to worry about, but worry about what they're doing. So, but yeah. I saw that a little bit too, going back and forth. Two heck of a players to be even in that conversation, going back and forth about what techniques work. So I think they would know.
Got time for a few more. We'll start on the left with Isaiah.
What have you seen from Mangum so far this spring?
Yeah, I like Mangum. You know, he kind of got in a hard spot. You know, I think next time y'all talk to him, you can kind of ask him about the adjustment of coming to Michigan. You know, I think you come to any school and you're a starter at another school, you think you're going to walk into a place and it's just going to come easy, whether you're a freshman or not. Then he got hurt a little bit during fall camp, which that wasn't good for him. And, you know, he ended up redshirting, you know. So there's probably some added pressure on him. You're a starter at another school, you come here and you redshirt. But I think he's done a great job this last scrimmage. He probably had 5 really good tackles, running the alley, being physical. He has range. His role will definitely be increased this year. We're excited about Mangum. He's smart, graduating. I'm excited about him. You know, I think he can help us for sure.
Also, we've heard from some of the defensive players about Bryce's ball placement and how it's just next level. What is your kind of evaluation?
Yeah, I think Bryce is a unique kid, man. I think the stuff that y'all see on the field will be, you know, y'all be excited about it, but I don't think y'all understand. This kid's out there all day long. Him, both quarterbacks, they're just out there all day long working on what they need to do pre-practice, tempering, getting ready for practice, working on his drops, up here at meeting by himself, you know, texting coaches about, hey, how are we doing this? I just think the preparation for a young kid like that is pretty unique, you know, because a lot of the great players, they have it in between their ears, you know, and I think that's what he has. But the arm talent is as good as advertised. You know, he's big, strong, physical, a leader. working hard. And then JD's done a great job as well. Those guys have been competing. Some days one goes with the ones. They go back and forth every other day. Coach is doing a really good job with those two. So I'm excited about them. But Bryce's, I mean, both of those quarterbacks have done great. I mean, the throwing and catching this spring has been good for both sides, right? So we're not defending the deep ball. We're not going to get good at playing the ball in the air. If they're just doing quick game, you know, we can have some false confidence if we're sitting on routes, and that's not how it's going to be on game day. As y'all know, people are going to challenge us.
Is Brandon Hillman third-string quarterback right now too?
Nah, he might. If you talk to him, he think he could probably be the starter here. But right now, I'm trying to get my guy just to focus. He's done a great job of focusing on school and focus on his beautiful daughter and just trying to do it all together. But B. Hillman is a talented kid. You know, he plays with aggression, as we always talked about. But all that anger, he's just a mean guy sometimes, and I got to get him focused on just staying focused throughout a series of a game. But he has grown up, man. I think that's the beauty of Michigan. You can get a kid from different backgrounds and different states where their life is. It could be hard. It could be tough, wherever they're at. I think this place just changed you for the better. You know, it doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, black, white, whatever your nationality is. I think Michigan, that's what makes this place unique. People from all over the world can come here and be on a great team with a great university and a great city, and guys become a family. I think that's what college football is really all about anyway.
Jaire had some issues with the double moves last year. Has he taken steps this year, and is that a concentration thing?
Yeah, I think Jaire, the double moves to me is not really knowing all the different coverages and stuff like that, just understanding where his help is. And I think now by moving him around, playing nickel and stuff, he kind of sees where his help's going to be at times. I think that's just a growth thing. You know, you got a lot of pressure playing aside the best corner in college football, and you're going to get tried a little bit more. So I think now, I think he just kind of understands that more. But, you know, I tell guys, once you put it on tape, that's your resume. So he needs to – we'll all know this season, right? So y'all be looking at the first time he gets hit with a double move, you'll say it's the old Shook. But I'm excited about Jaire working hard at his craft and challenging himself. I still think he has an extra gear that he doesn't know yet because he's just a young player. He's just a redshirt sophomore. But if he can stay focused, he'll be a really good high draft pick one day if he can stay focused. We got several young pros. They're not ready yet, but when it's all said and done, we got some pros on our team. They just got to continue to keep working and staying focused.
Last question, Angelique.
LaMar, I mean, defense by its nature is aggressive.
Yeah.
So how do you temper it, you know, if someone is overly aggressive?
Well, I always tell, let me see if I can say this correctly, right? So we have this 1-year-old at home. He's awesome, right? Potty training, awesome. And when he gets mad, he likes to hit all the time, right? So then I have to figure out when he hits the little ones, do I hit them? Now he thinks that's what you're supposed to do when you're mad. So I got to kind of control my anger and focus so I can get them better. So I think our guys got to understand throughout the whistle, when we're going back and forward, you can go whatever you want within the lines. But once it's over, it's over. So I just think guys got to be able to flip the switch. And I think really good players, they can flip the switch. You can be on the sideline. Offense could have fumbled the ball. We got to get back out. You can flip it and get back and get focused. It doesn't take you a while. Coming out the locker room, first series, you can flip the switch. And I think that's what we're trying to do, get guys to be able to turn it off and turn it on, right? When you're on the sideline having fun, certain change, flip the switch. Balls in the red zone, turnover, flip the switch. So I just think that's kind of what we're trying to tell our guys. You know, it's controlled chaos. You got to be composed. Competing with discipline is the key that we're talking about.
So you were talking about Brandon. Is he more like your 1-year-old?
Now one thing he does, he's really good with my 1-year-old too. So yeah, he's angry. I mean, when he comes out there, he's trying to. Coach Wink always talk about garage sale, have all these different pieces all over the yard. That's what he's trying to do. But he has to be able to focus so he doesn't miss tackles, right? If you get 2 big hits but you miss 3 of them, that's not going to be good. So just trying to show him some tape of some of these NFL pros when they're hitting and trying to knock guys out, but also whenever sometimes it's just better just to get the guy down to live another down. But what he does the best that I've seen from him is just his effort to the ball. He's always running with his hair on fire, and I think he's going to be a really good player. You know, this is all new to him. He's going to have a new role, being a guy that can, you know, be a starter here and all those different things. I think that could be another set of challenges for him. But I love him, all of them.